It's time for another episode of Stansberry Radio, the show that's too loud for radio. Here are your hosts, Porter Stansberry and Aaron Brabham.
Welcome to another episode of Stansberry Radio. I'm Aaron Brabham. Porter Stansberry, honored to have you in the hot seat again today. Man, you're like on a roll. You haven't vacationed in a while. You're a working man.
I am.
I like this.
I work hard.
Well, today we have our first ever female guest, Lauren Lyster. Lauren is the host of Capital Account on Russian Today American television.
Are you sure she's our first female guest? What about that guy we had? I wasn't so sure about him.
Which one? You want to name a name?
The effeminate guy.
None of them ringing a bell.
Oh, what was his name? It'll come back to me in a minute.
Okay. We've been receiving a lot of feedback from our listeners. People email us at feedback@stansberryradio.com, while others leave us messages. We had a few, 855-SA-RADIO, 855-727-2346. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on all that stuff.
Hang on, before we go on, there are a lot of guys who just turned into the podcast for the first time. They're just listening. They've never heard us before. Who knows who we are, what we do. What are we going to tell people on today's show that can help them become better, more successful investors? That's what we got to focus on.
It's exactly where we're going to go to. And what I want to talk about for new listeners, because we do have a lot trickling in, is...
We had two new listeners last week.
But that's for our file size, that's a big bump.
When he says trickle, he really means trickle.
Trickle in, trickle out. So you wrote The End of America. It was viewed by 20 million plus people. Okay, it's about the dollar losing its world reserve currency status. It's the end of America as we know it, not the end of our country.
Yeah, but it's absolutely happening. And one of the things I want to talk to Lauren Lyster about is the size of the Russian gold purchases.
Certainly.
Got an update on that this week. They have purchased, since 2009, since the beginning of quantitative easing, they've purchased 500 tons of gold.
So who's the biggest buyer, China or Russia? Wow.
Russia just ekes out China.
And they're committed to continuing this.
500 tons.
Now, where are they buying it from? Who are they buying it from? That's a lot of gold.
That's a lot of gold.
Do you know where it comes from? Like, who are the sellers of this, and is it just the producers?
Well, the main market is called the London Bullion Exchange, and it's the London Bullion Banks, and it comes from gold producers. And, they're buying it all the production they can buy, and then, of course, another large seller historically have been central banks. But guess what? Central banks aren't selling anymore. A lot of people haven't noticed either, but the Swiss, it's not just our enemies who are loading up on gold. The Swiss have increased their gold reserves by 25% in just the last year.
What's America doing?
Well, we don't know.
Because we don't disclose it.
Well, they say they do. You can look and see that the Treasury's holdings of gold remain unchanged. But it's not audited, so we don't know.
It's their word.
They haven't allowed anyone in Fort Knox since the early 1950s. Now listen, please, don't write in telling me that I'm a crank and a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying the gold isn't there. What I'm saying is we don't know. It hasn't been audited.
All right, so Russia seems to be the smart player here, and so does China, because last week Bernanke went QE infinity.
QE infinity, that's right. So what they're pledging to do is they're going to buy something on the order of $40 billion worth of new mortgages.
Starting off.
Or Treasury debt. They haven't really specified. And that they're going to support the markets. And they really did this to answer the ECB, which has pledged to begin interest rate targeting of Spain and Italian debt, which implies a massive inflation underway in Europe. And to make sure that the dollar doesn't strengthen too much versus the euro, the Fed had to pledge to do essentially the same. One can't print without the other printing, or the whole exchange rate mechanism is going to get all screwy.
All right, so now looking at like the sovereign bonds, they start dropping in yields, like Spain and Italy. When the presses are announced, they fell below like 5%.
Yeah,
or 6%.
Spain went below 6% for the first time since the last ECB promised to buy, which was in May. And Italy went below 5% since the last big announcement of printing.
How foolish would people be to be investors in those bonds? You think it's safe, or you think it's shaky?
Well, let me ask you the same question. Let's say you're running a small community bank, And guy comes to you and says, I'd like a loan. And you say, okay, show me your collateral. Well, I don't have any except for I have the right to tax my neighbors. I'm a gangster.
Okay.
Oh, that's a little shaky.
It's very shaky.
What if your neighborhood decides to move?
Yeah.
What if you're overthrown?
Yeah, they have an uprising.
Yeah. I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
Right to tax. That's not really great collateral
Not
in my mind. What's interesting is in the bond markets, the right to tax is seen as the best collateral in the world. But if you look at the history of sovereign debt, it's terrible. There's like no such thing as a sovereign borrower who hasn't defaulted. So right to tax, not great collateral. Okay, so then you'd say, okay, I need a higher interest rate because I don't know, maybe someone deposes you.
A little risk reward.
Yeah, maybe you're not a gangster for long. But then he says, and you can be sure I'm going to pay you back because I have a counterfeit printing press in my basement.
Yeah, I'm not feeling good about this still. You're not doing anything to make me feel better. I feel worse now.
No, so the bank's in the position of loaning to a guy with no collateral except for his monopoly on violence, and he's promising you that he will print money to pay you back, which will have no intrinsic value.
So who are buying these sovereign bonds?
The central banks are buying most of them. But the real issue is for the entire monetary system runs on the dollar. This is the real issue. So the whole money system works on the dollar. So all the contracts, all the obligations, all the trading receipts, everything is done in the dollar. So therefore, every bank has to have dollars in reserve because that's what all the transactions are done in. So right now, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but there's around 500 billion in U.S. dollars in literal, actual green paper bills circulating outside the U.S., which is about twice as much paper as we have inside the U.S. Okay, so that's what shows you how important the dollar is internationally. In terms of total reserves, not just the pieces of paper, but in terms of all the different receipts, the numbers are much larger. Overall, central banks around the world, out of all of their reserves, more than 60% of them are dollars. The problem is that you can't do business unless you're in dollars. So therefore, when you go overnight, when you put your cash deposits away, what do you have to put them in? You have to put them in dollars because everyone else uses dollars. So you're at the mercy of the U.S. central bank. And the global monetary system has diversified a lot since 1999 when the euro came on. And so now something like, 25% of global reserves are euros. So you either have to operate in dollars or euros. And so when you go overnight, you've got to stay in one of these two currencies, which puts you completely at the mercy of the devaluation of the dollar or the euro, which is what's happening. So the U.S. and Europe are both trading upon the goodwill of their creditors to pay back their debtors.
Not much goodwill right now.
And it's a giant game. It's a game of who blinks first.
And it doesn't look like either of them are going to blink the other direction.
Because if there ever is a real run on the dollar, and I believe that there will be for all the reasons I've said over many years, but the problem is that who gets hurt? The guys who get hurt are the dollar holders. And who are the dollar holders? Well, they're our largest creditors. So it's kind of like they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, but there certainly is a profit to be had in stability. And so what they're saying to the Fed is, okay, just don't devalue more than a couple percentage points a year, and we'll go along with it because we can't stand for there to be any real global unrest.
All right, so with QE infinity and your explanation, short term, and I'm going to qualify short term as the next 12 months.
It's really simple what you're going to see. You're going to see much higher prices for everything that's a hard commodity. So gold, silver. Internationally, I'd say oil prices are going to go up. Domestically, I don't think so because production is soaring. So you'll see an even bigger spread between WTI and Brent. A lot of things that are difficult to increase production of rapidly. So like soybeans, could see that they've had a huge move. They're up 50% probably in the last 3 months in anticipation of QE3 and the ECB move. But my top choice is silver. Because you've already seen central banks begin to load up on gold, and silver has always been the poor man's gold. So around the world, people are going to start hoarding and stockpiling silver, and that's going to drive the prices up. I've said in my newsletter that I expect you'll see silver over $50 by the end of the year.
All right. It's exactly what our listeners wanted to know for the education piece.
Yeah, and if you look at the difference between silver mining companies and the price of silver, you can see pretty clearly that the miners are also radically undervalued in terms of the value of their production compared to silver price.
Yeah, we've had a few people write in and say, what do you think of the junior resource sector? Because, it's starting to build, right? It's starting to look like it's on an upswing.
Exactly.
But there's so much fraud out there when it comes to the miners. You got to be careful. You want to go for producers, not the speculative miners, right?
Well, I would just say that certainly the bulk of your investment should be in the reputable producers, and it's not hard to find. They're the ones who increase production every year, who pay a dividend. Companies that are run by people like Ross Beatty, the good folks. And then in terms of the speculative companies, you could do very well on them. We have recommended a couple of speculative companies over my career. They've done very, very well. You know their names. I'm not going to say them on the radio show because they're worth a lot of money. But certainly the prospect companies are not the place for most investors.
People love them, though, because it's like gambling.
Well,
you can't keep them out of it, but you're right.
But
I
would say upwards of 90% of them are not even – they're not around – I'm going to say – I'm going to get in big trouble for this, but I'm going to say 90% of them will never be worth anything, okay? And the problem is that most of that 90% was never intended to be worth anything. It was just a simple promotion.
Mm-hmm. All right, Porter, let's get to some little housekeeping business here. Last week we received tons of email about the Dinesh D'Souza interview. Can you guess if they were major, like the majority of them were positive or negative?
I told you this yesterday before you even told me anything about it.
I know, but we're not supposed to, this is a game, right? Positive or negative?
Well, what I love so much about our conservative listeners is that they love it when I attack the left because of their arguments are intellectually bankrupt. For example, the left will not admit, and we had a guest on who was a lefty kind of guy. The left will not admit that card check is an abhorrence to all Americans. You should not have to show whether or not you voted for or against a union.
No, it's bully tactics.
It's complete bully tactic, and America is founded on the idea of representation and having a vote and having a say, and your vote is always private.
It's
always
anonymous. Right.
You go inside, you close the curtain, you vote your way, you walk out. No one has the right to know how you voted, right? Of course, the union wants card check. They want to see how you voted because they are going to intimidate you into voting yes. That plain, clear-cut, simple. And there isn't a decent human being on the left that would support that position, but they have to because all their financial backing comes from the unions. So it's kind of like one of these litmus tests to see whether or not you're a genuine person or whether or not you're just a political soldier, a pawn, just following orders, right? So the most of the listeners love it when I criticize the ridiculous positions that the left finds themselves in.
Oh yeah, we get the Porter, you're a genius,
right.
Porter, blah,
but when I attack the right for the same kind of logical inconsistencies does not go over well. So Dinesh D'Souza honestly believes that we're facing a United States of Islam. It's one of the most laughable, ridiculous ideas I've ever heard in my entire life. But because there is some infinitesimal, tiny possibility that, oh my goodness, all the guys in towels are going to be against us. Oh no. Oh, we're going to die. Then everyone on the right, which is backed by military contractors and everyone who's ever been in the armed forces, they're bam, bam, bam. We need more soldiers. We need more missiles. I loved it. I mean, Dinesh makes an argument for why we need a certain number of nuclear warheads, but he doesn't even know how many cities are in the world.
Now, what about, I feel like Dinesh, right after the interview, was laughing all the way because the whole week was the embassy attacks in all these Middle Eastern countries. He would probably argue that here we go, but there's a difference between little demonstrations and organization to battle the United States. I just don't see these guys organizing with all their differences in religions.
No, and I think this goes right to my point, which is that these people are all fighting sectarian civil wars. We want nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with us. And the idea that we should go be involved in a civil war in Libya, for what? Where is our strategic interest in this place? By the way, you want to really upset the right, point out that we have no strategic interest in Israel. There is no reason for us to support Israel militarily. None.
None. And they are pretty trigger happy. They're ready to get after it.
Our support of Israel is totally an accident of the U.S. political system. What was that? There's some fantastic number. There are, I used to know this. There's something like 15 million Jewish people in the whole world.
That's it?
That's it.
I feel like I know a million.
That's it. But how much political power do they have in the United States? Because they are an incredibly wealthy, they're the single wealthiest ethnic group in the United States. And they have tremendous political organization because they all stick together. They're a very unified ethnic group. And you cannot oppose them politically in America.
Let's see, two people like Geithner and Bernanke. There's two that control a lot of.
But the question I'm saying, what I'm saying to you is, I don't care about the political consequences of my opinions. I don't have to.
Right.
I'm just a newsletter publisher. Who cares? I'm just saying it doesn't make any sense for our country to spend the amount. We spend more money on our military than every other country in the world combined. We have 2,500 nuclear warheads at the ready. There are only 400 major cities in the world
that have over 1 million people, right?
Yeah, and most of those cities are already our allies. So there's probably 150 cities that we could ever possibly have a conflict with in the next 30, 40 years, right? How many times do we need to blow them up? It doesn't make any sense. There is no logical explanation to have a warhead stockpile of 2,500 nuclear weapons. And his whole nonsense about first strike is just insane. You know how accurate the Soviet missiles are that are supposed to be able to strike us all the way from our other side of the world?
Probably as accurate as Saddam Hussein's Scud missiles were trying to hit Kuwait.
Where did the Scud missiles come from?
Yeah,
the Soviet arsenal.
They're terrible. They couldn't even hit within 100 miles. They couldn't even hit a couple of miles.
The whole and it just drives me crazy that people believe this nonsense because it is so clearly crazy on its face. It's crazy to believe that people who've been fighting each other for their entire history, right? Arab sectarian battles begun in like 700 AD. They've been fighting each other the whole time they've had a religion. They hate each other. There's no way they're going to organize against us. Secondly, if they do, so what? Tell me how many aircraft carriers does Iran have?
I'm going to say 0.
Yeah. Tell me how many nuclear submarines?
0.
Yeah. We're fighting people who still mostly live in caves. I'm not making that up.
No, that's true.
It's just crazy that we have this entire culture of fear that feeds this monster in D.C., which is bankrupting us for nothing. There is no need to have all these missiles. There is no need to have this enormous 2 million man army, 2 million people in the Army and the Reserves of the United States. For what? Why do we have troops in 120 countries? For what? Why? When's the last time the continental United States was invaded? Here's a good question.
I would say by the Europeans when they landed here.
No, the last invasion of the continental United States was in 1812, 1813. And that was right here in Baltimore. It was when the British came and burned down Washington, D.C. Now, the interesting thing is the only people who have actually ever invaded us were English. And they're our closest allies.
Closest ally.
Anyway, I'm just saying that I think that the right's paranoia is just as stupid and just as illogical and just as crazy as the left's union backing and all their crazy stuff. And I know that he made the movie he made, not because it makes any sense or it's rational, but to touch on the hot buttons that are the core fundraising issues for Republicans. I think his movie is just as bad, or the way I thought it was just as funny, just as laughable, as all of the films by the Detroit guy. Bowling for Columbine and the big fat guy.
Moore.
Michael Moore. It's the same. It's just stupid right-wing propaganda instead of stupid left-wing propaganda. But, of course, I don't expect our listeners to support that at all. They're going to think that Dinesh D'Souza hung the moon because he's advocating for all the nonsense that they've believed in their whole lives.
And you're right, because whenever we're on the right side and you're hammering politicians, whatever, praise. That one podcast was, Porter, get out of politics. You don't know anything. Don't give me your opinion ever again. Stick to finance. It's the only thing you know.
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, on the hotline, we have our guest, Lauren Lyster. Lauren is the host of Capital Count on Russia Today television. She is also the first ever female guest on Stansberry Radio. Lauren, welcome to Stansberry Radio.
Lauren, how are you?
Hi, Porter. doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. What an honor.
Oh, jeez.
Wow, you're already setting us up like you're going to come at us.
I thought you had a much more interesting life than that.
Oh, come on. I got to butter you guys up so you're nice to me.
Oh, we're nice to everyone.
We're nice. Actually, we've got a fun game that we're going to play with you.
Yeah, we got a new
Go ahead and
game to
introduce
play.
it.
Right? Is that right?
But first,
Yes.
I wanted to share with you my latest ambition. I've just come to this realization.
Let's hear it.
We were looking at your bio, and it says that you are going to participate in some stand-up.
Yes, allegedly.
No, alleged. You got to do it, right?
I would kill for an invitation.
Yes, we would love that.
But
Is anywhere near New York?
oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, we're in Baltimore. We can train it up there.
You guys have to come. You have to come. It's
I will what I'll do is I'll scowl at everyone if they don't laugh at your jokes, and then if they don't, I'll threaten to beat them up.
And Lauren, you've heard some of our podcasts. You know Porter's got the horse laugh.
Yeah.
It can't be stopped. If you can get that going while you're up on stage, it'll make everybody else laugh.
I will snort.
That is amazing.
I will.
Exactly what I need. That's
When is this event? Because I'm in. We're going to do this.
amazing. Yeah, because I'm going to suck, so I'm going to need all the help I can get from the audience. That's for
Lauren, you've never sucked at anything in your life.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't know what that is, but okay.
I haven't done stand-up comedy yet, so that's why I haven't sucked yet.
All right, well, we'll find out. All right, Porter, let's explain the game because we want to get to know her a little bit better.
So we were trying to do some research on you, and you're a journalist, and you haven't written a book yet, at least that we know of, and we couldn't find much about your likes, dislikes, your beliefs, your value system, this kind of thing. So we came up with this game, and I used to use it a lot on first dates. And believe me, I went on a lot of first dates, and that wasn't because I was a ladies' man. It was because I always got shot down.
Because you didn't get the call back.
Right.
Wait, hold on. When did this become a date? Am I on a date currently?
No.
No.
This is a game. This is a game.
Just a game.
This is a game I used to play on first dates. It's a way.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
All right. Oh, great.
Great.
Yeah, this is exactly how my first dates always went.
Right, that's why you didn't get the call back.
Just messing with
Doesn't
you.
like the teasing.
Okay, so the game is called Neither, Either, Both.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you two choices. You can say one choice or the other choice, or you can say neither, or you can say both.
Okay.
Either, neither, both. All right? So we'll start out with some easy ones. Okay? John Stewart or Bill O'Reilly?
Both.
All right. Coffee or tea?
But for different reasons.
Right. Yeah, we're going to go back.
Yeah, we're going to go back into these.
There's 25 of them. We're going to burn through them real quick because you got to think fast. I don't want you to analyze it too much, and then we'll go back and discuss them. Okay?
Okay.
All right. John Stewart or Bill O'Reilly? You said both. All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Girl.
Either. Sorry, I can't even follow rules. Either.
Okay, so that would be both.
Oh, both. Okay.
Right? So either is you say one or the other.
Okay, so I name one.
You name one. So you like both coffee and tea.
Okay, no. Coffee. Sorry, I got to commit to that.
Oh, my
Oh,
gosh.
Jesus. This might take a while. Okay, stocks or bonds?
Neither.
All right. Private school or public school?
Public.
Tax cuts or stimulus?
Neither.
Ooh. Vladimir Putin or Robert Kraft?
I don't know. I plead the fifth. Neither.
Monogamy or dating?
Oh, it depends on the time. Either. Both.
Okay.
I suck at this game, you guys.
You're not doing very well.
Well, this is
You've
entertaining.
answered, like half of them you've answered one way than the other. I don't. You gotta get
She's a female. She
Let's keep
waffles.
going.
We get it.
Let's keep going. Eric Clapton or John Mayer?
John Mayer.
Seinfeld or Friends?
What was the first?
Seinfeld or Friends?
Friends.
Card check or right to work?
I don't want to. Neither.
Oh,
All right.
Hayek or Keynes?
Not Keynes. But you know what? I think Keynes has been misunderstood to an extent. So, both have value.
Both. Peak oil or shale boom?
Now you're getting tough, guys. I have issues with both, so neither.
All right. Boys or girls?
Boys.
Inflation or deflation?
Oh, depends on the day. Could go either way. Both.
iPad or Droid?
iPad.
Coach or first class?
Coach.
Comcast or DirecTV?
Comcast.
Thongs or grannies?
What?
Thongs or grannies?
What are grannies?
Grannies are big, comfortable underwear, like men's boxers.
Oh, not grannies. Oh, thongs. Jeez, you guys are getting real personal.
Thongs or grannies?
Hey,
you can say neither.
You can say neither. Yeah, you can plead the fifth.
I'm going to say granny. That's embarrassing. Thongs.
All right.
All right. We're just asking questions.
Yeah.
Leisman or Santelli?
Santelli.
All right. Maria Baltaroma, I can't pronounce her last name, sorry, or Erin Burnett?
You're like neither.
Okay, no, because I value those women for what they've done.
They paved the way.
So both.
So both.
All right. Pro-life or pro-choice?
Pro-choice.
All right. And one more. This is a cultural one.
Okay.
Team Aniston or Team Jolie?
Aniston.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
All right, so let's go back to the couple that you sort of stumbled over.
All right.
What do you think is misunderstood about Keynes?
Well, I think that modern Keynesianism, which is associated with every kind of establishment figure in Washington that just wants to print money, I think that when you really go back and look at Keynes' work and kind of listen to some of the ways that he thought, I think that maybe he wouldn't be so happy with how his theories have been used or misused, because I think he was more of a nuanced academic. But in the way that Keynesianism and Keynes is used today, I would say that I disagree with those policies. I don't think that stimulus is the solution to our economic problems in the U.S. or anywhere.
I'd tell you that if you read some of the things that Keynes said to journalists at the time, I think you get a picture of him in the early 30s at least as being a pretty radical socialist.
Well, that is fair enough. At the same time, I do think that there have been examples of him taking a more nuanced point of view, or at least being open
sure, yes,
ideas that I think it's been appropriated a very certain specific way in this day and age that I'm not so sure.
Okay, all right.
For example, I know that Keynes was a pretty active trader. I believe I've read.
Yeah,
and
he was a very good speculator.
That appropriate his theories today are more of the academics that sit in their ivory towers rather than people that are actually have money in the game.
You're saying that it's the ivory tower that interprets him today, not the speculators?
Yeah, I think that people in the ivory tower that consider themselves Keynesians are more economists and people that don't necessarily have skin in the game as an investor.
Okay. Now, I wasn't quite sure you knew the meaning of this one. Vladimir Putin or Robert Kraft. Are you familiar with the story of Robert Kraft and Vladimir Putin?
I'm not. Let's hear it.
So Robert Kraft is a paperboard magnate in New England, and he owns the New England Patriots. And he was visiting Vladimir Putin right after Putin sent the oil tycoon guy to jail in the spring of 2005. And Putin organized a little dog and pony show for these Western CEOs. It was Robert Kraft and the head of Intel and the head of IBM and the head of Alcoa and all these guys. And it was a really weird press conference thing where Putin was trying to show himself as being a man of capitalism, even though he'd just stolen Yukos and sent this poor bastard to prison for, 20 years. Anyway. So at the press conference following the meeting, he asked to see Robert Kraft's Super Bowl championship ring from 2005. The Patriots had just won the Super Bowl. And so in front of the entire Russian press corps, Robert Kraft hands him his Super Bowl ring. Well, Putin puts it on, and then he puts it in his pocket, and he walks away with it.
And that is a true story.
That's a true story.
No way. Did he give it? Was it a stunt?
No, it wasn't a stunt. He kept it.
He kept it. Kraft never got it back.
And now it's on display at the library of the Kremlin.
That's absurd.
Yeah, you're right. It is absurd, but it's true.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's true. So I just wondered, it was a great stunt because what Putin was really doing was what he was saying to the West is, I'm one of you guys. But what he was saying to all the Russians is, these guys are my bitches.
I own them.
Yeah, totally. Wow, you know what? I have to hand it to Putin in that case because that patriot sounds like a sucker. Why would he give up his ring?
I don't know.
I agree with that. Should have gone back after him.
He got the ring, made his message. I mean, got to hand it to the guy. That's pretty clever.
Very clever. And I think these guys who underestimate all the time are just fools. He's a very, very, very dangerous but powerful guy. How about you? When I said stocks or bonds, you said neither. What's your third choice?
Yeah, I would say alternative investments. I mean, every day we have people on the show talking about all of the problems with the financial system and the interconnection and the counterparty risk and the correlated risk. And I just am at a point where I'm just like, okay, hands off, alternative investments.
Wow. Okay. Very sophisticated view.
Well, I mean, the stock market is, I mean, it's not even where individual fundamentals matter anymore. It's all about the macro climate. I mean, so many people that I've spoken to are saying, I have fund managers that are getting out of the game because they don't know how to bet on how Angela Merkel is feeling today. And I think that's a really dangerous place to be, not to mention the Fed's role in the economy today has everything distorted, has risk distorted. It's just, I think it's a really scary time. I mean, bonds are, I don't know, the Fed's so involved, Treasury yields are so low for such weird reasons because the U.S. financial situation is a mess, but I think the U.S. is being helped out right now by the fact that Europe is such a mess and the U.S. dollar is still the reserve currency. So I just think that there's too much risk, not to mention getting into the way that rules are just systemically broken. I mean, MF Global was just such a glowing example of the fact that
oh yeah, I know.
There is no limit to what possible.
And look what happened at Lehman, right? They were shifting $50 billion back and forth between New York and London, depending upon which quarterly report was due where, and that was while the SEC was in their building watching them.
Oh yeah, I know. And like when you think about all of the regulators that are in J.P. Morgan, every single day they go to work there, and the whale trade just was completely
we had no idea. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they had no idea that was going on. They had no idea of the risk. It all concerns me. It all worries me. I'm just way more apt to pay attention to people that have ideas to get outside of the financial system. I mean, you have Jim Grant who talks about planting black walnut trees, and at this point that sounds like a pretty good idea because I would rather deal with the weather than deal with central bankers, regulators, too big to fail banks, and how everything is so messed up.
Well, I can tell you that my personal largest investment this year was pine trees. So
really?
Yeah,
Is that right?
I'm on board. Yeah, Southern Georgia pine trees.
How's that going for you?
It's going very well. They grow whether the Fed inflates or not.
Amazing.
So listen, I wanted to get to. I know you got better things to do than talk to us, but I do have one serious question for you. Can you try to explain to our listeners exactly how your media company works and the name of your website? It's RT.
RT.com is the news organization's website. Our show is seen on youtube.com/capital account and hulu.com/capital-account. So the way our news network works is it's an international news network, English language. It's independently, run. Like my boss, for example, was a war reporter for a decade and all sorts of things, and he's the editorial director here in our Washington bureau. It does get its funding from the Russian government. I'll be quite honest about that. So do other networks like BBC get funding from the government. The way our show works is that we do our own thing. I mean, it's me, it's my producer, our producer, Demetri Kofinas, who has a background as a financial blogger. He reported on the crisis in Greece, on the ground in Athens, and is very versed in finance. And we do the show together, and, we get our kind of what we want to do signed off by my director here, who says, great, doesn't give a lot of input typically, and we get to do our thing.
Very interesting model. It's a Russian-backed English language news program on the internet, and from what I
mean, it's a network, but it's a TV network, so it's shown all over the world to I think 200 million homes.
Oh yeah, you guys have a huge audience, and not only that, but you are very respected on Wall Street.
Well, that's because I think that people are finding it very refreshing to see some alternative points of view to what you see on CNBC or Bloomberg every day.
I don't have much problem with Bloomberg's coverage of things, but in my opinion,
and I do want to preface that I do agree with you there, Stansberry. I think Bloomberg does a much better job, but CNBC I do think has
horrible.
A very specific point of view and a lot of perspectives.
They're a mouthpiece of Washington for sure. Well, what a refresh! Oh, Aaron, one last question.
I do have one question, and this is not to be creepy or anything like that, but I'm sure you realize this. Like on YouTube, there are YouTube videos devoted to your legs. Like, do you think it's a little creepy that people go on there to listen to you, but it's really that wide angle shot with your legs, and it gets a ton of views?
Well, how do I answer that? I mean, I hope.
It's a tough question, but it's a fair question.
I'm very confident with what I'm doing intellectually and think that what we're doing is really important. So I hope at the end of the day that is more valued and viewed in the end than my legs. But, I mean, that's complimentary. I'm sure there's a day that my legs won't get any attention, so I'll take it.
There you go.
All right, I like it. You owned it. I
Good
appreciate
answer.
that.
You know, that's the bottom line. I mean, I'm a woman. I'm somewhat young, and someday I won't be, so.
Fair.
Okay with it.
Fair. Hey, Lauren, it was a very enjoyable conversation. We truly do respect your news programming, and we look forward to seeing you on stand-up. You got to give us those details.
Yeah, do you have any of the details for the funniest reporter show? And by the way, I mean, could I technically enter this thing? Because I might get up there and kill.
We'll see. I don't know. I fully endorse competition, but I might have to get involved in that, get in the way of that.
Oh, nice.
All right, I like
it. Aaron has a future career plan as being a stand-up guy, and my future goal is just to drive the RV.
Right.
There you go.
We have lofty goals.
Yeah.
They're great goals. All right. Well, you guys, thank you. And I do want to say, I'm not an expert on canes. I'm just saying I just had an interesting interview with Mark Faber recently, who was talking about how some modern economists use some of these thinkers in a way that maybe they wouldn't appreciate. And so that's what made me
I'm gonna send you some Keynes quotes that you might not have seen yet. I'm gonna email you a couple choice ones.
Oh, great.
Might color your opinion a little bit.
I'm sure, because I know where you stand. At least I think I know.
Lauren, it was a great pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Best of luck with the show.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Another charming guest.
Yeah, she said we were mean.
I like that she answered the questions honestly.
Yeah,
though.
she did.
It was impressive. She didn't weasel out of anything.
No, she didn't say anything about Putin, though. I don't blame her.
I don't either, man. I feel like Kraft really didn't want to ask for a bag because he's afraid his hand might get chopped off at that point.
Yeah, plane might blow up in the air.
Stranger things have happened over there.
Yeah, man, that one poor guy, he poisoned him with radioactive material. Ugh.
And then the guy you're talking about with the guy he put in jail.
Oh, yeah, Kodorsky or whatever his name was.
For pretty much no reason.
McHale.
And then when he had his date to get out, they extended it like another 7 years for some kind of findings.
But I don't know, people don't even know this. They didn't just send him to jail. They sent him to a Siberian work camp that's at a uranium mine where that's been in operation since like the 60s, and the whole town is covered in uranium tailings, which are radioactive. And basically, you go there, no one comes out alive. It's terrible.
It's a death sentence.
Yeah. Ugh. Not a guy you want to upset.
All right, Porter. No scumbag this week as a nominee. However, you challenged our listeners to find an award. What are we going to award the person who wins the Stansberry Scumbag of the Year award? Well, we had a guy write in.
I got an idea.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, you tell the listener.
Let's
go listener first.
So Alan has a suggestion. He says, I think I have a winner. You should send them a bobble turd. Okay?
No.
You don't like it.
No.
But you make it look real fancy.
No.
You have this little casing on it.
No, I think what we should send them is did you ever get one of these? We had when I was growing up, my family, my grandparents owned a small beach cottage over at New Smyrna Beach. And it would stay empty for most of the winter. And then the first guy into the house, there would always be, it's Florida, so there would always be cockroaches.
Yeah, I don't like those.
Right, so to get rid of them, you had to do what's called this roach bomb thing.
I know, I've done it before.
You put it in the house, you close all the windows and the doors, and you let this thing go.
Like a fogger.
It fumigates it all.
Yeah, it's fumigating.
That's what we should send these people. We should send them a roach or a rat pesticide thing.
So when they open a box, it fumigates them?
No. Not doing any violence to them.
I know.
Just send them a box of rat poison and ask them to, clean up.
I feel like, though, if we gave them...
Let me be very clear for all the Homeland Security officers who are listening. I am not advocating that we apply rat poison or fumigation to any politician or leader.
No.
I'm saying that as a gesture, we would send them a box of such things. Everyone clear? I'm not threatening anyone. I'm not threatening the president.
I think that we should do a really nice trophy, but have a nice acronym where they don't understand it, because I feel like...
they display it.
Yeah, I feel like that they will display it, and they'll have... Because you'll write them a nice letter, and then they'll think, Great, I won an award. They'll never look into it.
I love it. We could send them an award that is like a lifetime achievement in politics, which in our way of saying you are a lifetime scumbag of the highest order. But they'll think it's a real award. Now, that's genius.
That way it's displayed in their office. They're so proud of it. They'll never listen to one podcast, and then hopefully people will come in and they'll be like, oh, yeah, you're a total scumbag.
I love it. Or then they'll listen to the radio show.
Which would be even better.
And they'll be like, oh, these guys are fans.
Maybe we can get them to take a picture of it, too, and then we can post it on our...
I like that.
We'll really give them a good fake letter. It'll be nice.
Yeah. You've won the Stansberry Award.
Lifetime Achievement Award,
which is the I don't want to be named after me. We need a really old scumbag politician to name it after.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
one that they kind of look up to because they don't really understand it.
Right, someone who's revered in Washington and hated everywhere else.
That's a good idea. I'll have to write that down. We're looking for if you guys can think of anybody, write us.
Richard
feedback
Nixon.
at Stansberry Radio. That's what I was thinking immediately. But I don't know. Would that be too obvious?
The Nixon Award for Achievement in Politics.
I like it. Yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, send them in, feedback at stansberryradio.com. All right, Porter, CEO or crook, we were talking about this the other day as well. So hip-hop entrepreneur Jay-Z recently trashed the Occupy Wall Street in a New York Times piece saying, "What's the thing on the wall? What are you fighting for? I'm not going to a park and picnic. I have no idea what to do." So this comes a year after the rapper
Hold on. What does that mean?
I don't even know what that means. Maybe he was
and by the way, let me be very clear. I'm a fan of Jay-Z. I think the guy is a tremendous talent, and he has been fantastic for the music business. He's made a lot of money for himself and
phenomenal entrepreneur.
Phenomenal. I'm not critical. I don't want you to think I'm busting on Jay-Z just because I don't like rap music or I don't like Jay-Z, or heaven forbid there's a bunch of listeners out there who think, oh, there's Porter criticizing another black guy. He's a racist. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the problem.
But I just don't understand what Jay-Z was saying, and I wonder why that was interpreted as being a slam of the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Yeah, I don't really either, but Harry Belafonte came out and hammered him, and because basically Jay-Z was selling shirts, street T-shirts, to the Occupy Wall Street crowd a year ago. So he was making money off them, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that at all. But then you brought up a good point, which was entrepreneur Russell Simmons.
Oh, yeah.
This guy came out and went crazy about
he is such a scumbag, though.
Yeah, but he's got such a great spin.
I love it. I love it because what I love about Russell Simmons is he sends his own people completely down the river, and they love him for it. So, like, he came out with this thing. Were I talking to you about this yesterday?
Yeah, we were talking about
the bank card.
Yep.
Yeah, he came out with this thing because he knows that a lot of people who are minorities and live in the ghettos in the cities on the East Coast,
they
don't use banks,
right?
So they can't get a Visa card. And so he was saying, hey, you buy the Russell Simmons Visa card and you get $25 prepaid Visa card. But it costs you like $36 to buy it.
Yeah, this guy is hammering him on fees.
But yeah, exactly. He was killing his own people on banking fees.
Right.
But he was posing as though he was doing a great humanitarian service to his community. And let me be very clear. I think it's great to hammer people on banking fees. I think it's great to make money in banking. I got no problem with that whatsoever.
Sure.
But it's hypocritical as all hell to sit there and lecture to your own community about how you are trying to help them when really you're selling them down the river.
Yeah, let me just read a sentence from him as a quote. "Today it's close to impossible to be you or me and get out of Marcy Projects or Hollis, Queens, without changing our government to have our politicians work for the people who elect them and not the special interests and corporations that pay them." He's a big corporation, and he's getting fat over this.
I'm so tired of the I made it out of the ghetto, but you can't.
It really is something that kind of like puts their thumb on top of people in a way.
I just hate it. I don't care. In the United States, anyone can do anything they want in business or life. It just takes some perseverance, some brains, and some effort. And there are way too many people, like, by the way, the two guys on this podcast right now, who can demonstrate that. No, Aaron and I did not grow up in the ghetto. That's true. But we didn't have any special favors. Believe me, Aaron's whole family looks like well, I'll let him describe it.
Well, let's just say when people ask my heritage, I say, I'm a quarter Scottish, a quarter Irish, 50% white trash.
There you go. Anyway, I'm just so tired. I'm so tired of hearing Americans say, other people owe me something. I'm so tired of it. I just can't take it anymore. I'm sorry if you were born in the ghetto. I'm sorry if your mother was a crack whore. I really am. I'm actually very, very sorry about that. But it's not my fault. I don't owe you a thing because of it.
And you don't have to continue on that path just because your family did that. You can break it.
I guarantee you, if you just work hard, and you try to serve other people, you will do fine. But if you're Russell Simmons and you're a complete hypocrite and all you're really after is serving yourself, then sooner or later you will be destroyed.
As you always say, what's a friend in need?
A pest.
So when you learn to give value instead of taking, people will give you opportunities.
Absolutely. You show up at work every day and you complain and you ask your boss for a raise every day and you tell him that you need him to do more for you. You're out of work.
Well, let's give an example of something that happened a few times at Stansberry. You used to be in charge of the discretionary bonuses.
Oh, I'm not. That's not my role anymore.
Not yours anymore, but discretionary, at your discretion.
Right, yeah.
You would actually have people, and by the way, it's a bonus, you would have a few people that would complain to you about the bonus.
Not just a few, and every single year.
Shocking to me.
Yeah. So what I did was I'd gather the employees together at Christmas time, and I'd say, hey, we had another record year. Everyone's bonus will be bigger than it was last year. Everyone's. Okay? And if you want to complain about your bonus, the line starts at the unemployment office. I'm tired of it. It's not my fault.
It's a good way to weed out our employees that are takers versus givers.
Are you looking to invest, live, or retire overseas? Before you pack your bags, you need to log on to NagelLaw.com. It's the only stop you need to make for global business, asset protection, estate planning, overseas residency, and citizenship needs. Our experts have experience working in 41 countries around the world. Starting a business abroad can be overwhelming without expert help. We assist clients with foreign trust, foundations, corporations, LLCs, IBCs, and property acquisition. Need help with IRA assets abroad, capital formation, foreign securities issues, banking, brokerage, or finance needs? NagelLaw.com. We ensure compliance with U.S. tax and regulatory laws. We engineer global structures to help our clients achieve their personal business objectives. Get started today. To find out about our introductory personal asset protection plan, visit us online, NagelLaw.com. We represent capital overseas.
All right, Porter, winning the war on the middle class. The median U.S. income is the lowest since 1995. According to the annual data from the Census Bureau, median income adjusted for inflation fell to $50,054 in 2011, a 1.5%, which is 1.5% below its 2010 level. This doesn't really even take into consideration inflation either and the cost of energy and food.
No, I think that is inflation adjusted.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It's got to be. It's got to be. Because nominal wages are way up since 95.
It's 4.1% below its score when Obama took office in 2009.
Yeah. So, this is a very important concept. If you've never heard or thought about this before, I really want you to pay attention. This is the whole game. This is why you keep getting poorer and everyone on Wall Street and Washington keeps getting richer. This is the game. Not only are real wages down since 1995, I can show you data from the Department of Labor, which will prove to you, if you didn't already know it, that real wages have fallen since 1971 on an after-tax, per-person, real wage basis. In other words, if you've been working at a job in America, average job, you've gotten poorer over a 40-year period. Okay? That's never happened before in America. The longest previous downturn in real wages was like 6 or 7 years during the Great Depression. Okay? This is way longer than that. That's why the average quality of life, the average standard of living has continued to decline in America. And it's why you're seeing such heated political rhetoric between the rich and the poor. Basically, this is all a result of what we call the war on the middle class. This is why we know the government's winning the war on the middle class. And why it's happening is not hard to understand once you get this one thing. And here it is. Increases to productivity and increases to wage rates cannot keep pace with inflation. It's just that simple. You keep getting poorer because the government keeps inflating away your savings and your wages. They do that for one simple reason. One reason. Because it protects the banks. This is what makes up for all the bad lending decisions the banks make. It's what makes up for all their frauds and their scams. This is the government in collusion with big banks. It's just that simple. The terrible part is that the working class believes that the central bank and its inflationary policies are what lead to full employment. They think that fiscal deficits, which cause inflation as well, they think that leads to more opportunity, to more jobs, to more government largesse. What it really leads to, folks, is inflation. And you can just take this simple metaphor, okay? It doesn't matter where you are in life. It doesn't matter whether you're the high taxpayer or the free rider. Taxes and the government impede the economy, pure and simple. And when 1 in 6 people in America works for a government, a state, federal, or local government, okay, we've got a huge burden on us. We can't support that. When the government has to borrow 40 cents out of every dollar it spends, there's a huge problem in our country. This problem is not going to go away with more government. It can only go away with less government. I don't care who pays for government. I don't care I don't care how risky it would be to have a banking system without a central bank. We can't continue to go down this path, or the middle class will be completely wiped out, and all the rule of law and all the things that hold our country together will be destroyed in the process. This is the real danger of the end of America scenario that I talk about, the run on the dollar. And the real cause of it is central banking.
So 2 things. Number 1, no accident that you mentioned 1971.
Right. That was the end of the gold standard. That's when the banks got the power to inflate their reserves to any level that they want. It is no mistake that since before that time, the total debt of the United States had never been more than about 100% of GDP. When I say total debt, I mean federal debt, state debt, private debt, public debt, banking system debt. All the debt had never been more than about 100% of GDP. Today, it's 4 times.
400%
of GDP.
For every man, woman, and child. What's the figure? Close to what, $700,000 or something? Or is that too high? I can't remember what it was that you.
In total debt, there's it's $56 trillion. Okay, in total debt right now in the U.S. We have an economy of roughly 15 trillion. We have a population of roughly 300 million. So you can do the math any way you want to. But the bottom line is, when we let go of a tangible standard of value in our banking and currency system, we surrendered the fate of that system to the politicians. There is no firm foundation, which means that they can create credit in an unlimited scale and they can create as many dollars as they want. We should have never given them this power, ever.
And expanding the government to reduce the unemployment numbers is ludicrous because the government doesn't produce, they transfer. That's all they do. They just transfer.
What boggles my mind is that people can't understand that it's not other people who pay for taxes.
Right.
We all pay for taxes. There are people who write big checks. There are people who write no checks. But the entire cost of the government comes out of the economy that you participate in. So the more taxes there are, the less opportunity there are for you, on average, across the whole country. There is no free ride, and there's just if you thought that more government and more federal programs would benefit society, then I'd urge you to move to Detroit and see how it goes.
All right, another winning the war on the middle class. We talk about all these huge ammo buys and crazy things from Department of Homeland Security, and we got a good debate yesterday talking about. There's going to be a desire for people to want real privacy because there's no privacy anymore in this country, and it's becoming less and less. Well, a 16-year-old boy was questioned by FBI agents over a YouTube video he created for a school project. The video highlighted how America was slipping into a police state and discusses the National Defense Authorization Act, evidence suggesting that Republican caucus in Maine was fixed to disenfranchised Ron Paul, the hacktivist group Anonymous. Anyways, the FBI goes to this kid's door. It gets notified, like the parents get a call. This is FBI so-and-so, agent, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yes. Well, we got reports that your son is doing some kind of suspicious things on YouTube. We need to go investigate him. They literally come over to the house, sit down with the kid, and they want this kid to become an informant for them against the group Anonymous. That's too far.
I don't know.
That's too far.
I guess you could just say no.
Yeah, but why? I mean, it's so ridiculous. You can't even have like free speech on
I don't know.
YouTube anymore.
I don't even really know what to say because I don't think. I mean, I know personally that you don't have free speech in this country. If you say these things that I say, get ready. They're coming for you. I've had all my bank accounts seized.
Yeah, you've lived it.
Yeah, I tell people what's happened to me. They don't even believe me, and I don't blame them because it just sounds so crazy. But it's what happens.
All right, stupid business models. Business Week did a great piece on private equity solving the National Hockey League problems. I'm not a big hockey guy, but I can see how people enjoy it. So the NHL is almost non-existent in the U.S. and will have its second work stoppage in 7 years. So Bain Capital made a surprise offer to buy out the entire league for $3.5 billion in 2005. The owners were like, "No way, we don't want any private equity firms coming in here." I think it could be a good solution.
If I was a hockey owner, I would have accepted that offer. But I'm not a hockey owner. Unlikely to become one.
Yeah.
I don't really care much about hockey. But I also don't really care much about professional sports in general. And I think that what the people are paid to play professional sports is ludicrous. I would much rather go watch a group of hockey players, football players who are actually from Baltimore, who actually grew up here, who actually went to college around here. I'd rather see a regional team play another regional team than watch a bunch of guys who all grew up in Miami and Tampa and Texas, because all the pro football players come from the same couple of places, right? I don't know. I think all you're really rooting for is uniforms. That's the only thing that doesn't change. The coaches change, the players change, the stadiums change. There's no tradition, and none of the people care anything about the community. But they somehow get a free pass to the entire community support. How many people do you see walking around Raven stuff, right? People,
it's crazy.
The people don't even know. The Ravens aren't even the Ravens. They're the Cleveland Browns.
I know, and the old school guys here, like
the Colts,
like Mr. Watkins, he's like, I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm a Colts fan.
Yeah,
I quit being a Baltimore fan when they left.
The whole thing boggles my mind. I just don't understand. I really don't understand. You got millionaires fighting billionaires over being paid to play a game. And then you've got communities that go into crazy amounts of debt to build stadiums for these assholes. I don't get it. And then guess what? The stadiums never even get paid for. So then people 40 years later, right, who weren't even alive when the stadium was built, they get conned into paying for the damn thing.
It was the Giant Stadium as a parking lot now, the old one, and there's still $100 million outstanding of debt.
Yeah, they still owe $130 million on a stadium that's now a parking lot for a new stadium.
That they owe on that, too.
The outcome is criminal. Maybe the process wasn't criminal, but the outcome's criminal. And it all benefits these schmucks.
I do love some NFL. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big fan of it, and I hate this whole ref strike thing. How the NFL doesn't just pay these guys shots.
The only professional sport I can even tolerate is golf.
Yeah, because you go out there and you earn your money.
You want to know why I like golf? I like golf because the people that play it are still gentlemen. I don't want my children watching NFL when there's a fight on every other play and people act like total jerks when they score or when they make a good play. Act like you've been there. You're a professional. How about the game last weekend where you had the Tampa Bay Bucks who doing a hard charge on the last play of the game and there's 2 seconds left.
Yeah, it was where they knocked over Eli. He was going to take a knee and they smashed him. That's not
ridiculous.
They knew what he was going to do.
It's that all this does is reinforce all the bad behavior that the kids are learning in the jail schools. Right? It just reinforces it. It's like broadcasting thuggery. How about the fact that there's not an NBA player left that's not covered in tattoos? What do these people have to offer me and my family for entertainment value? How about nothing? All they can do is help bring us down, help make our lives seem more hopeless. I'm not going to go pay for that.
I do like golf also because if you don't make the cut, you don't get paid that week. It's earning a paycheck.
I like golf because you can compete with someone and still have a conversation with them and still say, nice shot. And when the round's over, you can take your hat off and shake your hand like a gentleman. That's what I want my children to see. Hey, when's the last time a pro golfer was in a don't schnitz on the cops video?
Can't think of any.
How about never?
Yeah.
I hope, it won't happen, but I hope all those damn professional leagues go out of business. I hate all of them.
All right, Porter, it's time for the voicemails and a few emails, and then we're out of here, man.
All right,
Tim,
let's do it.
fire them up.
This is Jane that made me lose respect for you and your so-called advice when you made fun of the gentleman that made that movie.
I couldn't help myself.
Obviously, you don't give a damn how our country ends up in 2016. I do.
Obviously.
I've followed the
obviously.
Muslim. They'll never convince me he's anything but because
Obama
of the
is a Muslim.
information I have found on the Internet.
Oh,
It's
the Internet.
getting
You know, it's
the Internet has
more
everything.
a Hitler state, and I happen to have lived through that period, young man, and you may think it's funny, but I'll be damned if I do.
I think
and
you're
I've
pretty
listened
funny.
to people from Cuba and other places where they've come from tyranny, and they say the same things. I'm losing more and more of my respect for any advice you would give.
Okay.
Oh, bring in the heat. Next.
Well, I don't. Hold on. Where did that conversation go? She got mad at me
For hammering Dinesh.
for hammering on Dinesh, and somehow she converted that to I don't care about the country
to I hate Muslims
and I hate Muslims
because he's a Muslim, or Obama
Dinesh is a Hindu.
I
but
think
now
she's
he's a
referring
Christian.
to. I think she might have been alluding to Obama being a Muslim,
But just because I didn't agree with Dinesh doesn't mean I agree with Obama.
and now you hate your country.
Anyone who knows me knows I don't like Obama. I make fun of him constantly.
And we make fun of Republicans a lot too.
No, but I
Whatever.
mean, I always capitalize his
Sure.
name and put the
But
exclamation point on
yeah,
it and
people,
stuff.
People get a little riled up.
Obama. Yeah, come on. I
Obama.
hate the entire black Democratic wing of the party. I think they're all scumbags. I don't know how I don't know. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I don't know why you can't criticize someone's movie just because it's full of bad ideas.
All right, next.
Hi, my name's Blake. I'm interested in trying to find out if you guys are going to have app on the mobile unit,
Like an
so
app.
we can listen to the radio program on our cell phones. Thinking maybe if you had apps, I could listen to it while I'm at work on a cell phone.
Nice.
Thanks
I like that.
for
Yeah.
listening to my rant and raving.
Big fan of listening at work.
No, he's probably like driving a school bus or something.
So there are.
It's not important.
There are a few things that you can do. We don't have an app out right now. However, you can go to iTunes, of course. You can load that on your phone. You can also go to our website and download the MP3s, which pretty much any smartphone can handle these days. Or you can even transfer to an iPod or an MP3 player, and then you can play all of our shows.
Oh, come on. Give the guy an app. How hard can that
All
be?
right, let's get an app going. Naresh, let's get an app.
Come on, guys.
There's an app for that. All right, one more, I think, Tim.
The Porter app. Part of the Porter app should be my horse laugh. You can just push it and it laughs.
I like that. That's going to be my ringtone. God, it would annoy people so much. That's it. That's it. I just recorded it. 99 cents, StansberryRadio.com. Get your horse
That would
laugh.
be great. Get your horse laugh now. Hot and ready.
Hot ready. All right, Tim, fire up that last one.
Dinesh D'Souza really ate your lunch.
Yeah, I know
you
he
missed
did.
the point of the movie. I just wonder what other points you missed.
Okay, all right.
yeah.
We already addressed
He ate
that.
my lunch, yeah. He's the guy that was reduced to calling me names, but he won the argument.
Since we're on a roll of people hammering you, Eric wrote in and said, please name one disease that is related to the lack of drugs and not nutrition, which is the magic bullet, ? You should become aware of all the fines levied against Big Pharma.
Maybe he's never heard of bacterial infections of any kind.
And he says, you cannot honestly believe altering Mother Nature can turn out well. I will start listening to your nutrition advice as soon as you are not sick for more than 1 week. I love that. I like the sizzle on that.
Clearly he doesn't understand, and I can't say I really understand much about virology either, because I don't think we really understand much about viruses
I
at
don't
all.
either.
We don't really understand them yet. But viruses are not commonly thought to come from nutrition. And I think bacteria has been studied well enough to know that it absolutely does not come from nutrition or lack of it. Certainly you can be more susceptible to these things, the weaker immune system, if you have poor nutrition. But Aaron, I think you know me well enough to assure the readers that I eat extremely well.
You eat very well. The best food you can eat.
Yeah. I mean, my wife only shops at Fresh Market and Whole Foods. I mean, she pays 5 times more for groceries than anyone else I know.
Oh, if there was something above Whole Foods, you would go there.
And I haven't missed a meal since 1977.
No, you haven't.
So nutrition's not my problem. But the guy said one more thing that was interesting. Improving nature.
Right.
But where does he think food comes from? It's so funny. He says, oh, you can't do anything to improve nature. Hey, the guy doesn't understand anything. Human beings have been improving their surroundings for all of recorded history. We've been breeding cattle so that it makes more bigger animals. We've been grafting with plants to make things that are hardier and more resistant or more tolerant of drought and all that stuff. We've been changing nature since day one, and that's why, by the way, there's so much wealth in the world, because of all the changes that humans have made. If you don't try not taking care of your property for 10 years and see what it's worth. I mean, human beings alter nature all the time. That we're able to do so now with much finer and more powerful tools is good, not bad. Sorry.
All right, Porter, I've got one from Rudolph, and this is a good question because it's one that is brought up often. My question is about the ethics of owning a security. So from reading Porter's Digest and hearing him on the podcast, he seems to be a man of integrity. For example, he says that he would not accept a Social Security check based on the fact that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
I will not accept Social Security payments.
I will not either. I've heard Porter recommend annually.
You might not want to pledge to that right now, Aaron.
Well,
you might need them.
No, yeah. Hey, look, if I can't make it happen on my own, man, forget it, dude. I don't need those handouts. I have integrity too, Porter.
All right. Okay.
He said, I've heard Porter recommend annually. I've also heard him question the morality of what they are doing in the interview with Senator Dorgan. So I was wondering if there was a stock that he would not own based on ethics, morality, and why.
Oh, lots. Many of them. Yes. But you know what? I don't have to back all the way down into ethics. Companies that are run poorly for the benefit of the management instead of for the benefit of the legitimate owners, I wouldn't own their shares, and I think the management's crooked. But I wouldn't own their shares because it'd be a very poor economic decision. It doesn't even have to get to the point of ethics. I think that if I had a seminar one day and I went through all the major sectors of the economy, you can break them down into different S&P groups, I could show you dramatic differences in the way companies are managed. And I would say roughly half of the management teams out there have no interest in serving the shareholders whatsoever.
Okay, what he's specifically
and I
talking
think that's
about,
unethical on the part of the management. But that doesn't mean the company itself is bad, just the managers are bad. But I wouldn't own the stock because I don't trust the managers.
Spoken like a true analyst here. He's really referring to like Philip Morris and
No.
You break it down the way that a person should invest.
Right. So so the question is, would I not own a company because I don't like the business it's in? And the answer to that question in my mind is no, because I'm a huge fan of liberty. And I think that human beings all have different objectives in their life. There are some people who might want the enjoyment of tobacco, even though they're fully realized it's going to lead to emphysema and a terrible death. That, in my opinion, is their choice to make. I wouldn't tell them how to live, and I don't want them to tell me how to live. So I don't have any problem with companies that are serving the legitimate needs of their customers, as long as they're doing so without being fraudulent. So if there was a company out there that I believe was fraudulent, I'll short the heck out of that stock. I wouldn't own it. And Aaron, you've seen me do it many times. So, for example, last big industry I shorted a lot of was the education, the for-profit education companies, because I know that the education they're selling is worthless, and they're defrauding people who can't even afford it in the first place. So the answer is yes, there are companies whose products and services are unethical, but it's probably not the companies you would suspect.
Money doesn't sleep. And if you do a good analysis on a company, you better get in on it. Don't buy things just because you like it. George said, concerning your childish attempt to pull me into betting you. This was last week we did.
Yeah.
Right?
Childish.
Your offer is declined, but I will issue a counter. He'll issue a counteroffer.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you run for Congress? You have the passion. You have the money. You are intelligent. You hate the corruption that is commonplace in our society. You have the support of most of our listeners. Your listeners, and this country would greatly benefit from having another libertarian in Congress.
Next to suicide, it's probably the last thing I would ever do.
And you get that a lot. People really want you to do something. I don't want you.
Why would I want to turn my life into a useless, hopeless battle with a bunch of other numbskulls? Why would anyone want to live in the public eye? It makes no sense to me.
All right. Well,
and by the way, I couldn't live on that paycheck.
There's no way. lifestyle would have to change dramatically. All right, well, that's our show for today. The guest on the next show will be prominent.
Oh, and by the way, I want to go a little further on this. I also have no interest in public service. None. I think that doing what's best for my country means doing what I'm good at, which is newsletter publishing. I think I'm making my subscribers wealthier. I know I'm making my partners wealthier. I'm making my employees wealthier. I'm helping a very large group of people by doing what I'm good at. I think people who go into public service do so because they're not good at anything else. They can't survive in the private markets, so they have to go be a con man. I'm not interested in that.
All right, that's our show for today. The guest on the next show will be prominent Australian economist and debt doomsayer Steve Keen. We appreciate you listening to Stansberry Radio. Special thanks to Lauren Lyster for joining us on the show.
Delight.
You can go to RT.com and check her out.
She's a real gentleman.
Yeah, go into YouTube.
Oh, you know what I mean.
I know what
a
you
gentle
mean.
lady.
Go into YouTube, check out her videos. Follow us on Twitter at Stansberry Radio. Like us on Facebook.com/Stansberry Radio and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget, call us 855-SA Radio. That's 855-727-2346. Also, coming up in probably 4 or 5 weeks, we have a new twist that we're going to add to Stansberry Radio. I think our listeners are going to love it, but we'll tease it next week. Ooh, that's it.
All right.
Have a great week.
See you next week.
Stansberry Radio is a purely public broadcast and is not intended to be personalized financial advice for any individual's specific situation. Each individual's financial situation is unique, and Stansberry Radio should not be relied upon and or considered as personalized advice. Stansberry Radio is not licensed to render personalized advice and should be considered simply the public opinions of Stansberry Radio and its guests. Recommendations on specific financial securities are not intended to address any listener's particular financial situation.